The red lights of alien warships cut through the darkness around Kepler Station like angry eyes. Commander Veltheros stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the small human research station through the viewport. His massive form was covered in the legendary Titan armor that had never been broken in 300 years of war across the galaxy. "Sir, the humans refused to surrender," reported his lieutenant, voice crackling through the communication system. Veltheros laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Of course they do. Humans always think they can fight their way out of everything." He touched the quantum-compressed plates of his armor. "They will learn today that some battles cannot be won." Inside Kepler Station, Dr. Kim Jae-hyun ran his hands through his black hair as he stared at the computer screens showing the approaching enemy ships. 3 years of work on quantum tunneling technology sat in the sealed containers behind him. This research could change everything for humanity, or it could destroy entire worlds if it fell into the wrong hands. "Jae-hyun, we need to go now." Dr. Park Min-ji called from across the laboratory. Her fingers flew over the communication console, trying to send one last message to Earth. The signal would take months to reach home, but maybe someone would know what happened here. "I'm trying to delete everything," Jae-hyun said, typing commands as fast as he could. "If I can't save the research, at least I can make sure they don't get it." Lee Hyun-woo walked into the lab carrying his plasma rifle. The security officer had been a military engineer before taking this quiet job on the research station. He thought his fighting days were over. Now he wished he had brought bigger guns. "How many are there?" Minji asked, her voice shaking. Hyun-woo checked his weapon's energy display. "Too many. And they're wearing Titan armor. Our weapons won't even scratch them." He had studied alien military technology during his service years. Titan armor was the stuff of nightmares for human soldiers. "Then what do we do?" Dr. Park Soo-yoon asked from where she was packing the most important research files. As the station's materials scientist, she knew exactly how dangerous their quantum research could be in alien hands. "We delay them as long as possible," Hyun-woo said. "Maybe Earth will send help." He didn't believe it himself. Earth was too far away, and they had no way to call for immediate assistance. The station shook as the alien ships fired their weapons at the outer defenses. Through the thick walls, they could hear the sound of metal tearing and systems failing. The humans had built good defenses for a research station, but nothing that could stop a Nexarian war fleet. Jae-hyun slammed his fist on the desk. "The deletion program needs more time. The quantum files are protected by too many security layers." "How much time?" Hyun-woo asked. 20 minutes, maybe 30. Another explosion rocked the station. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power grid took damage. Red warning messages flashed on every screen. "We don't have 30 minutes, Minji said, watching the tactical display. "They've already broken through the outer hull." Hyun-woo moved to the laboratory's blast doors and activated the manual lock system. These doors are designed to survive a reactor explosion. They'll hold for a while. He looked at the 3 scientists. "But when they get through, stay behind me. Maybe I can buy you a few more seconds." Veltheros led his elite soldiers through the damaged corridors of the human station. His armor sensors painted everything in blue tactical overlays, showing him exactly where the humans were hiding. The pathetic attempts at defense had been swept aside in minutes. "Commander, they've locked themselves in the main laboratory," his lieutenant reported. "Perfect. All their research will be in one place." Veltheros flexed his armored fingers. "Begin cutting through their doors. I want to speak with these humans before we kill them." The cutting beams started their work, and the thick metal doors began to glow with heat. Inside the laboratory, the humans could hear the high-pitched whine of the alien weapons slowly eating through their last barrier. Hyun-woo watched the doors and thought about his old military training. Every enemy could be defeated if you found the right weakness. But Titan armor had been tested against every weapon humanity had ever built. The quantum-compressed metal and energy shields made the wearer nearly invincible. "Nearly," he whispered to himself. "What did you say?" Soo-yoon asked. "Nothing. Just thinking." Hyun-woo studied the tactical information about Nexarian armor that was stored in his memory. There had to be something. Every design had flaws, even perfect ones. The blast doors continued to glow brighter as the alien cutting beams worked. Soon, the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy would walk through that opening, and 4 humans with small weapons would be all that stood between Earth and a technology that could end worlds. But Hyun-woo was starting to get an idea. The blast doors exploded inward with a shower of sparks and molten metal. Through the smoking hole stepped Commander Veltheros, his massive Titan armor gleaming under the emergency lights. 2 more Nexarian soldiers followed behind him, their heavy footsteps echoing through the laboratory like thunder. Hyun-woo immediately opened fire with his plasma rifle. The bright blue energy bolts struck Veltheros directly in the chest, but they splashed harmlessly against the shimmering energy shields that surrounded his armor. The alien commander didn't even slow down. "Run!" Hyun-woo shouted to the scientists. "Get to the back corridors." Jae-hyun grabbed the most important data files while Minji helped Soo-yoon carry the quantum research samples. They ran toward the laboratory's rear exit as Hyun-woo continued firing at the advancing aliens. His plasma bolts did nothing except light up the room with useless flashes. Veltheros raised his own weapon, a massive energy cannon built into his armor's right arm. "Stop running, humans. You only make this harder for yourselves." A bolt of red alien energy missed Hyun-woo by inches, melting a hole through the wall behind him. He rolled behind a lab table and kept firing, knowing his shots were useless but hoping to buy time for the others to escape. The other two Nexarian soldiers spread out through the lab, their sensors tracking the fleeing humans. Their armor made them look like walking tanks, each step cracking the floor beneath their weight. "This is hopeless," Minji whispered as they ran through the narrow maintenance corridor behind the lab. "We can't fight those things." "We don't have to win," Jae-hyun said, breathing hard. "We just have to delay them long enough to destroy the research." But Hyun-woo wasn't thinking about delay tactics anymore. As he moved through the station's corridors, staying ahead of the pursuing aliens, his engineer's mind was working on a different problem. He had spent 5 years designing military equipment before becoming a security guard. He knew how armor worked. Every time Veltheros fired his weapon or reached for something, Hyun-woo watched the way the armor plates moved. The Nexarian design was brilliant, with overlapping sections that provided complete protection from every angle. But armor that protected everything had to be flexible enough to let the wearer move. "Interesting," Hyun-woo muttered as he ducked behind another corner. An alien energy bolt burned through the wall where his head had been seconds before. He fired back, not trying to hit the aliens but watching how they moved when they dodged. The Titan armor was heavy, which meant it needed powerful joints to move quickly. Those joints had to have some kind of weakness. "Human," Veltheros called out as he stomped down the corridor. "Your weapons cannot hurt us. Surrender now and we will kill you quickly." Instead of answering, Hyun-woo ran toward the station's engineering section. The aliens followed, their heavy footsteps shaking dust from the ceiling. He needed to get a better look at their armor, and the engineering bay had better lighting. In the main engineering room, Hyun-woo turned and fired several shots at the lead alien. This time he aimed carefully, watching exactly how the armor responded to impacts from different angles. The energy shields flickered with each hit, but the quantum-compressed plates underneath remained undamaged. Veltheros laughed and raised his arm to fire back. As his armored limb extended, Hyun-woo saw something that made his heart race. For just a moment, as the commander's elbow joint reached full extension, there was a tiny gap where the overlapping plates separated. It lasted less than a second, and the gap was smaller than a coin. But it was there. "Got you," Hyun-woo whispered. He ran again, leading the aliens through more corridors while his mind raced through calculations. The gap only appeared during full arm extension and only at a specific angle. No wonder no one had ever exploited this weakness before. Most species fought with claws or energy weapons from a distance. They never got close enough to see the flaw, and their weapons couldn't target something so precise anyway. But humans were different. Humans had been fighting up close for millions of years. Meanwhile, the scientists had reached the station's central computer core. Jae-hyun was working frantically to delete the quantum research files, but the security systems were fighting him every step of the way. "How much longer?" Soo-yoon asked, watching the corridor for signs of pursuit. "The files are too protected," Jae-hyun said, sweat dripping down his face. "I need at least 10 more minutes." "We might not have 10 minutes, Minji said. She could hear the sound of energy weapons firing somewhere in the distance. "Hyun-woo can't hold them forever." But Hyun-woo wasn't trying to hold them anymore. He was studying them, learning their movements, understanding their weaknesses. As he led the aliens through the station's maze of corridors, he was forming a plan that was either brilliant or completely insane. The Nexarian Empire had conquered half the galaxy with their invincible Titan armor. But they had never fought humans before. They didn't understand that humans had turned fighting into a science, and that every human body was a precision weapon millions of years in the making. Soon they would learn. Hyun-woo ran through the station's corridors with the 3 Nexarian soldiers close behind him. Their heavy footsteps echoed like thunder, and their energy weapons burned holes in the walls around him. But he wasn't running in panic anymore. He was leading them exactly where he wanted them to go. The central computer room was the station's most secure location, with thick walls and only one entrance. It was also where Jae-hyun was still trying to delete the quantum research files. Hyun-woo knew that once the aliens cornered them there, the fight would be over. But he also knew it was their best chance. He burst through the computer room's doors and quickly sealed them behind him. The manual locks would hold for a few minutes, maybe less. Hyun-woo. Minji called out in relief. Are you hurt? I'm fine, he said, but his eyes were bright with excitement. And I think I found something. Jae-hyun looked up from the computer terminal where streams of data were still scrolling past. The deletion is almost finished, but those doors won't hold much longer. The sound of cutting beams started immediately, just as it had in the laboratory. The aliens were burning through their last barrier. Listen to me carefully, Hyun-woo said, gathering the three scientists around him. Their armor has a weakness. Soo-yeon stared at him. That's impossible. Titan armor has been tested against every weapon in the galaxy. Not every weapon, Hyun-woo said. During full arm extension, the elbow joint creates a tiny gap between the armor plates. Maybe 2 millimeters wide, and it only lasts for a split second. 2 millimeters? Minji shook her head. Our plasma rifles can't focus that precisely. Even if they could, how would we time the shot? Hyun-woo flexed his right arm, feeling the complex mechanics of bone and muscle working together. We don't need weapons. We need precision. The other three looked at him like he had lost his mind. Think about it, Hyun-woo continued. Every other species in the galaxy fights with claws, teeth, or energy weapons. They attack from a distance or they use brute force. But humans are different. He demonstrated by throwing a quick punch at the air. We evolved as hunters who had to kill animals much bigger and stronger than us. We learned to use tools, but more importantly, we learned to use our bodies as tools. Jae-hyun was starting to understand. You're talking about martial arts. Hand-to-hand combat. Exactly. The human elbow isn't just a joint. It's a precision instrument. Look. Hyun-woo moved his arm in slow motion, showing them how the elbow could deliver force in a perfectly straight line. Millions of years of evolution turned this into the most accurate striking weapon on Earth. Soo-yeon was a materials scientist, and her mind was already working through the physics. The focused kinetic energy, if you could hit that gap with enough precision. The armor is designed to spread energy across its entire surface, Hyun-woo finished. It has no defense against a perfectly targeted strike to its weakest point. The blast doors were glowing bright orange now. They could hear Veltheros shouting orders to his soldiers. But you'd have to get close enough to touch him, Minji said. And you'd need perfect timing. I know. Hyun-woo checked his plasma rifle one last time, then set it aside. That's why this is either going to work perfectly or kill me instantly. This is crazy, Jae-hyun said, but there was admiration in his voice. You're going to fight invincible alien armor with your bare hands. Not bare hands, Hyun-woo corrected. Engineered hands. Human hands. He looked at each of them. Every part of the human body is a tool that our ancestors perfected over millions of years. We just forgot that because we started relying on machines. The cutting beams were almost through the doors. Molten metal dripped onto the floor, and they could see the dark shapes of the aliens moving outside. When they come through, stay behind the computer banks, Hyun-woo instructed. No matter what happens, keep working on deleting those files. Earth can't let that technology fall into alien hands. What if you miss? Soo-yeon asked quietly. Hyun-woo smiled grimly. Then you'll know that human evolution wasn't as good as we thought it was. The doors exploded inward with a shower of sparks. Commander Veltheros stepped through first, his massive armored form filling the doorway. His weapon was already charging, ready to end this fight. Enough running, human, the alien said through his translator. Give us your research and we will make your death quick. But instead of surrendering or diving for cover, Hyun-woo did something that no enemy had ever done in 300 years of Nexarian conquest. He stepped forward. Veltheros actually paused, his weapon lowering slightly. In all his battles across the galaxy, no creature had ever voluntarily approached Titan armor. The human's action was so unexpected that it triggered no protocols in the aliens' tactical systems. What are you doing? Veltheros asked, genuinely confused. Hyun-woo didn't answer. He was watching the alien's right arm, calculating angles and timing. Everything depended on the next few seconds. I'm using the tools my ancestors gave me, he finally said. Then he moved. Veltheros raised his massive armored arm to swat the approaching human aside like an annoying insect. In 300 years of warfare, no enemy had ever been foolish enough to get within arm's reach of Titan armor. The quantum-compressed plates and energy shields made close combat impossible for any known species. But as his arm extended to full reach, Hyunwoo saw exactly what he had been waiting for. The microscopic gap between the overlapping armor plates opened for just a fraction of a second, exactly where his calculations had predicted it would be. Time seemed to slow down as Hyunwoo's body moved with the precision of millions of years of human evolution. Every muscle fiber activated in perfect sequence. His legs drove power up through his core. His shoulder rotated to generate maximum torque. His arms snapped forward with the mechanical efficiency that had allowed early humans to throw spears with deadly accuracy. But this wasn't a spear throw. This was something far more precise. His elbow struck the tiny gap in the alien armor with surgical accuracy. The joint that had evolved to help humans craft tools and throw weapons now became a weapon itself. All the kinetic energy generated by his entire body focused into a point smaller than a coin, delivered at the exact moment when the armor's protective systems were momentarily compromised. The impact was devastating. The Titan armor's quantum-compressed plates were designed to distribute energy across their entire surface. They could absorb the force of plasma cannons, energy blasts, and kinetic projectiles because they spread that energy over a wide area. But they had no defense against a perfectly focused strike that bypassed their distribution system entirely. The armor cracked. Not a small crack, but a catastrophic failure that spiderwebbed across the chest plates in an instant. The energy shields flickered and died as their power systems overloaded. Warning alarms screamed inside Veltheros's helmet as his supposedly invincible protection fell apart around him. Impossible, the alien commander gasped, staring down at his ruined armor in disbelief. The other two Nexarian soldiers stood frozen in shock. They had just witnessed something that their military database said could not happen. Titan armor did not break. It was a fundamental law of galactic warfare, as certain as gravity or the speed of light. Hyunwoo stepped back, flexing his right arm. The elbow joint ached from the impact, but it had done exactly what evolution had designed it to do. Not impossible, he said calmly. Just precise. Veltheros tried to raise his weapon, but his armor systems were cascading into total failure. The quantum-compressed plates that had made him invincible now made him helpless as their weight dragged him down without the powered assistance systems. How? He demanded, his voice distorted by failing electronics. No weapon in the galaxy can penetrate Titan armor. You're right, Hyunwoo agreed. No weapon can. But I'm not a weapon. I'm an engineer. He tapped his temple with one finger. And humans have been engineering solutions to impossible problems for a very long time. Behind the computer banks, the three scientists watched in amazement. Jaehyun had stopped typing at his terminal, completely focused on what he was seeing. Minji covered her mouth with both hands, hardly daring to believe it. Suyun's scientific mind was already trying to understand the physics of what had just happened. The two remaining Nexarian soldiers began to raise their own weapons, but they moved slowly, uncertain. Their entire understanding of combat had just been shattered. If Titan armor could be defeated by a single human with no weapons, what did that mean for everything they thought they knew about warfare? Hyunwoo picked up his discarded plasma rifle. Against the remaining aliens' functional armor, it would still be useless, but he had learned something important. The gap appeared on every suit during arm extension. He could get close enough to the other two soldiers. Stay back, one of them shouted, his voice high with fear. Don't come any closer. Why? Hyunwoo asked, moving slowly toward them. Afraid of getting hit by an elbow? The alien soldiers looked at each other, then at their fallen commander, then back at the approaching human. For the first time in Nexarian military history, elite troops in Titan armor began to retreat from a single enemy with no visible weapons. This is impossible, one of them repeated. Humans are weak. Your species has inferior physical capabilities. Hyunwoo smiled grimly. That's what we wanted you to think. Physical strength isn't everything. Precision is everything. He demonstrated by picking up a small bolt from the floor and throwing it across the room. It struck a specific button on the computer panel from 20 feet away. We spent millions of years learning to be accurate instead of just strong. Veltheros struggled to stand, his damaged armor sparking and smoking. The Empire will know about this. They will study your combat techniques. They will find countermeasures. Good luck with that, Hyunwoo said. Because this isn't a technique you can study or counter. This is what humans are. He looked at the defeated alien commander with something that might have been pity. We don't just build tools. We are tools. Every part of us was designed by evolution to solve problems and overcome obstacles. The quantum research files finally finished deleting with a soft chime from the computer terminal. It's done, Jaehyun announced quietly. The research is gone. But Hyunwoo knew that something much more important had just been created. The news traveled faster than light itself through the galaxy's communication networks. Within hours of the incident at Kepler Station, every major species had received the impossible report. Titan armor had been broken by a human elbow. At first, nobody believed it. Admiral Kex then of the Vortanian fleet threw his data pad across his command bridge when he read the message. "This is obviously human propaganda," he snarled at his communications officer. "Titan armor cannot be broken by primitive biological attacks." But then the video recordings arrived. Security cameras throughout Kepler Station had captured everything. The footage showed Lee Hyunwoo studying the alien movements, calculating angles, and then delivering a single precise strike that shattered armor which had protected Nexarian warriors for 3 centuries. The video spread across 1,000 worlds in a matter of days. Military academies, research institutes, and government facilities all received copies. Alien scientists studied the footage frame by frame, trying to understand what they had witnessed. On the industrial world of Zephyr Prime, General Mordak watched the recording for the 15th time with his tactical staff. The room was silent except for the soft hum of holographic projectors showing the humans' movements in slow motion. "Freeze it there," Mordak commanded. The image stopped at the moment of impact. "Show me the force calculations again." His science officer activated a new display. The human concentrated approximately 800 pounds of kinetic energy into a contact area of less than 4 square millimeters. The strike duration was 0.003 seconds. Creating a pressure spike that exceeded the armor's localized resistance threshold. "But how did he know exactly where to hit?" another officer asked. The science officer highlighted the tiny gap in the armor plating. He observed the joint mechanics during combat and calculated the precise moment when the armor's overlapping plates would separate. This level of tactical analysis during active fighting suggests cognitive abilities we may have underestimated. General Mordak leaned back in his chair. "For 300 years, we've dismissed humans as a minor species with decent technology but inferior physical capabilities. We never considered that they might have superior analytical capabilities." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening in alien military headquarters. Species that had never worried about humans suddenly began requesting detailed files on human anatomy and combat techniques. On Earth, Lee Hyunwoo found himself in a very different position than he had been as a simple security guard. Military leaders from across human space wanted to interview him. Scientists wanted to study his technique. Engineers wanted to understand how he had calculated the armor's weakness so quickly. "I just used what humans have always used," he told a room full of Earth Defense Force officers. "We observe, we analyze, and we adapt. Every human does this naturally." Admiral Chin, the highest-ranking officer in the Earth Defense Force, studied the tactical reports spread across her desk. "The aliens are scared," she said. "For the first time in recorded history, they're actively avoiding human territory." The reports were true. Alien trade ships that had regularly visited human colonies were now taking longer routes to avoid human space. Military patrols that had once challenged human vessels now kept their distance. But the most significant change was happening in alien research facilities. On the ocean world of Aquatica 7, marine biologists who had spent their careers studying their own species suddenly found themselves dissecting human combat videos. Dr. Velandra, a respected aquatic military theorist, presented her findings to the Planetary Defense Council. "Humans don't fight like any other known species," she explained to the assembled leaders. "Most creatures rely on natural weapons like claws, teeth, or toxic secretions. Others use superior size or strength. But humans have no natural weapons and are physically weaker than most predator species." She activated a holographic display showing human skeletal structure. Instead, they have turned their entire bodies into precision instruments. Their joints provide mechanical advantage. Their nervous systems calculate trajectories and impact forces in real time. They have essentially evolved into biological targeting computers. The council members listened in fascinated silence. "But the most dangerous aspect," Dr. Velandra continued, "is their psychological approach to combat. Other species fight with instinct or trained responses. Humans fight like engineers. They study their enemies, identify weaknesses, and then develop specific solutions to exploit those weaknesses." On the crystal world of Shardhai, the Crystalline Collective was reaching similar conclusions. Their military researchers had obtained detailed scans of human bone density, muscle fiber composition, and neural response times. "They are not individually superior to any known warrior species," reported Chief Analyst Quartzfell. But they are collectively more dangerous than any species we have encountered. They share information, adapt tactics, and modify their approach based on analysis rather than tradition. The analyst's report included a chilling conclusion. If humans can defeat Titan armor with unarmed combat, they can potentially overcome any known defensive system given sufficient study time. Within 6 months of the Kepler Station incident, the galactic balance of power had shifted. Species that had never considered humans a threat were now studying human anatomy textbooks and martial arts videos. Military academies added courses on human combat analysis to their curricula. And in the deepest archives of the Galactic Intelligence Network, a new file was created with the highest security classification. Its title was simple but ominous: Human Weapon Potential Unlimited. The legend of the human who had broken invincible armor with his elbow had become something far more significant. It was the moment the galaxy realized that humans were not just another species with good technology. They were living weapons, engineered by evolution and guided by intelligence.